Improving the look and feel of your Canvas apps can often be as simple as just applying some basic styling to your input controls and some very subtle but simple uses of container controls. Today I'm going to show you how to take your Power App from looking like, well, a Power App, and instead turning it into a modern mobile design that is what people expect when they're using a mobile app. You can apply these concepts to your own apps and really make things look nice. It's going to be a short video, a simple video, but some tips and tricks that you can use to really level up your design. You can download the solution file for this from my GitHub. The link is in the description. And of course, subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you want to keep learning UI, UX tips to make your Canvas apps pop. I'm Ryan Johnston, and now let's get creating. Okay, so as usual, let's begin with the end in mind. We're going to create this little very simple input concept where we have a hover color with this light blue border, some light gray background, some shadowing underneath the buttons, and this nice rounded frame that it all is in. What we're going to start with is your typical Power App input control. Where we've got, very boxy, very square design and look, and we're going to turn that into this. So I'm going to right now just duplicate this basic one that we're going to start with as kind of our foundation. And again, you can download the files off my GitHub, or if you're just wanting to recreate this on your own, I mean, this is just very basic. A rectangle with a label on top of it, a cancel button. I don't even have a button attached to it. It's just the icon. And then one label, a text input, another label, a text input, and two buttons. That's all we need to start with. Now, what we want to do is style this a little bit better. And a lot of times that means creating a container that this can all live in. And so let's start by creating a container. We're just going to do a regular old container here. And we are going to make it the width of our screen minus, say, 50. Parent dot width minus 50. And same thing with the height, parent.height minus 50, and then let's center it. And this, of course, is our centering formula, which you just gotta be able to type in your sleep when you're doing Canvas app design. Parent.width minus self.width divided by 2. And that is your centering. And then the same thing for height, we just change that to height. Did a copy and paste there. Okay, so now we've got this container centered. Let us fill this with a nice white color, and then we're going to fill the background of this thing with let's just do like a light gray. Let's get rid of this blue rectangle, and we're gonna move our container. We'll call this container background, and let's put it all the way down at the bottom. And let's give it some rounded corners. We'll go a border radius of 20. And already it's looking better. And let's actually go with a semi-bold shadow on that. Remember with UI UX design, the things that you want to pop off the page need to have a lighter color than the things behind it. So we're gonna make this entire thing pop off the page by making it white versus the background, which is gray. And then by adding shadowing, it's going to pop off even more. The more shadow that you do, the more it's going to come off the page. And so you want to choose the controls that you want your user to really focus on. That's the stuff that you want to pop. And so we've got this input area. We're going to create this container. We're already looking better. Now then, we can no longer see our header. It's hiding around up here. Let's change that to a, let's not go black, but let's go like a dark kind of a slate gray. And let's give this thing a little bit of breathing room. I kind of like that. So let's line everything up on this update. We're not going responsive with this. I'm not going to take the time to calculate all this stuff. We'll just drag and drop and make things work nicely. So we'll select both of these as well. We're going to make all of these this kind of slate gray color. And let's drag this, let's just drag it straight over. Oh well, it's not going to be quite perfect there. It keeps wanting to move up on me. And then let's change all of our fonts. I do not like Open Sans. Lato, whatever it is what I like to work with. So we're selecting everything. And we're going to make that Lato. And that's looking much better already. Okay, let's make our input controls also shorter border here is smaller, so we've got a little more margin, a little more breathing room. All right, let's talk about what we're going to do here. What we want, when we put our mouse over these input controls, they give us that kind of typical blue look that we get in Power Apps. And we're going to change up these blues a little bit, and I'd like to change the rounded corners. Let's go ahead and grab these. We can control our border radius. We did 20 on that outside box. Let's see if 20 is too much. Maybe a little. Let's do 15 and see what we think about that. 15, well, not 150, 15. Okay, I like that, great. Now, before we go deal with our input controls, I forgot all about our cancel icon, which is hiding up here. So rather than having this gaudy giant X, let's give it a nice round cancel icon. So we're gonna change this to a dark gray. What are we doing here? Maybe like the slate, light slate. Let's try this. Now, let's not let this X just hang out here all by itself. Let us add another container, and we are going to make its border radius 0, and we'll keep a tiny little shadow on it. Let's make it 60 by 60. Actually, let's go like 50 by 50, and we're gonna put our X inside this container, and we want a little circle inside of it. Well, we've created a rectangle container, and now let's fill it with just kind of a light gray. Let's go lighter, light gray. Now, I want this to be a circle, not a rectangle. So how do we do this? Well, the lovely thing with these containers are, to make a circle out of it, we simply make a rounded rectangle with the border radius being basically 50% of its width and height, which means that corner is going to go all the way around to half the length and height of the box. And when you have 4 border radii that go half the length, it's going to turn itself into a circle. So we're a height of 50. If we do a border radius of 25, then we now have a circle. All right, let's make our X, our icon smaller. Let's go say 30 by 30, and let's center it and go with our, do I still have that pasted? Nope. Parent dot width minus self dot width divided by 2. Let's copy that, paste that into the Y. We'll change the width to height. Copy paste, and boom, we've got a nice pretty little button. And so now let's move this thing over to our right edge. Okay, that's a much better looking X than this monstrosity. All right, so we've got, and then of course you could have, of course, a button element to that, or just stick with the icon and use its on select, however you want to, but you get the idea for the styling. Okay, let's go back to our input text controls. So I'd like to make this a little more subtle of a border. So rather than this really like dark blue, let's go with like a something more along these lines. I'm gonna copy this hex code, and I kind of like that. Okay, I like that for like the selected color. So in fact, let's do that. We're gonna go in here and we're gonna say focused border color is color value, and we will do this hex code. And remember, we copied and pasted this from our color picker. And so this is gonna be our focused color border, which we're also gonna make the same as our hover. So let's do hover border color. We'll just do self dot focused border color. Okay, so now that when we hover over that, that border color shows up. And then for our actual border color, let's do another one of these nice gray colors, just a light gray. Ooh, I like that. Okay, and then we're going to, let's make the hover fill color a light gray as well. And so we're gonna go hover fill. And you know what? What if we do it the same as the border? Self.border color? Yeah, that's too dark. So let's do color fade, self.border color, and let's go 20% lighter. No, let's go 50% lighter. No, I'm still just, we want it really subtle. Okay, I like that. That's nice and subtle. Let's go here where we're not bothered by other things, and we click on that. And that's good. Now, notice how that border got super thick. So that's our focused border thickness. I think that's a little too, in your face. So let's go change our focused border thickness to from 4 to 3. So it makes it a little bit thicker, but not too much. That's good. I like that. Okay, now then, let's make this thing pop off the screen. You could, if you really wanted things to pop, you could make this part like gray and then keep the input text box white. That would make it pop, but we've already got this gray background behind our container for this update record card. And so I think what we're gonna do is, rather than changing any color, let's make this thing have a little bit of a shadow to it. And let's go in here and make some of our, let's do this container cancel styled. And, oh, I've already named it that. Container canceled. That will work. Container, this is not a container, icon, ICO canceled. And then we've got our header, which is label header. I'm going to add styled too, because my demo is just regular styled. Label first name, styled to. Text first name, styled to. And I'm going to actually do a copy and paste on this in a little bit, so we're not going to worry about the last name. Okay, we're going to add some shadowing. Now, unlike a container control, a text input control does not have any kind of a drop shadow. So what we have to do is actually, we got to fake it a little bit here. We're going to create another container. We're going to create a container that will have our shadow, and then we'll put the text input inside of it. So let's look at let's go ahead and bring this down. Container 6 is going to come down to our text first name. So we'll call this container first name styled. I already named it that. That's my demo. Text, or we're going to call this, we'll just call it container first name. Forget the style. First name. Okay, there we go. Now, let's just give it the same properties as our text field. So our text field has an X of 59 and a Y of 211. So we're going to say X is 59 and 211. And then our text field has a width of 524 and a height of 70. So we're going to go 524 and 70. Okay, and then we're going to take our text control and we're going to paste it inside. So you can see we've got this kind of squared off border thing going on here. So what we need to do is we need to change the border radius of the container to the same border radius of our button, which was, I believe, a border radius of 15. So there we go. Our border radius is all set. And our we're going to set our border at 0 because we're going to use the border from the button. And then for our drop shadow, let's go with regular. And look at that. So now it looks like our text input control has a drop shadow, but it's really from the container. Now you could create this text input and have it all squared off with no border whatsoever and do all of your styling in your container. That actually might be the cleaner way to do it. And then just fill it with your text input and give it a border of 0, and it'll just fill that container accordingly. So let's do this. Let's copy this container, and then we're going to move up so we don't paste it into itself. And let's move it down. And our text input on last name has a Y value of 375. So we're going to change this copy to a Y value of 375. And what was our X value here? An X value of 59 and X value of 59, okay? And then we're going to delete the original text last name. We're going to change this to con last name. And I misspelled that. Who cares for right now? And then we're going to change this to text last name. Oh, last name. We'll call this last name styled to. Whatever you want to call it. Just name it something that makes sense. Okay. Oh, look at that. What have I done? Oh, I must have clicked in somewhere doing something at some time. Border 0. There we go. So, doesn't that look nice? We've got a nice record here. Lovely looking when we click onto it. Okay, now let's mess with our cancel and submit. Let's do some styling here. I personally don't like having a border to my buttons in this sort of a context. And so let us give this a border of 0. And same thing. Now cancel, we're going to do a little differently. Let's keep its border. Let's actually fill it with white and do a text color of kind of a medium gray, and give it a this light gray border is already looking pretty good. Let's take this back down to 100%. And I like that, just kind of a simple border. It's not the thing that pops. What you want to pop is a submit button. Now then, the submit button pops. Let's make the submit button, the fill color is going to be, let's actually make it the same as what our border, our hover border color was on our text inputs. And so we're going to do focused border color is text first name styled to dot focused border color. And that gives us, oh, sorry, I just put it in the focused border color. This is what we're doing for the fill. So there we go. Okay, now it gives us a nice bright blue. Now we put our mouse over it, and it suddenly goes right back to that kind of ugly, sort of predictable Power Apps blue color. So let's go to our hover hover fill. There we go. And we're just going to go self.fill, and let's do a color fade. We're going to make it slightly darker, and so we'll do negative 20%. And there we go, slightly darker. And when we click on it, it inverts itself and gives us a thick border, and I think that's just fine. And so let's go here. That looks good. Notice that we still have this focus border around it. I just don't like, in general, the focus borders. So let's go change focus border thickness to 0 on this. We've just got our color. Good. And then on cancel, we need to change that. Let's change its hover color to like a nice gray. When we click, it's going to invert the color. It looks like it's inverting the color even on hover. So let's just go with a dark gray. I think that will work fine. So hover color is, let's actually make it the same as the text color. So we'll say self.color, and then, oh, what have I done wrong? Hover color is self.color, which is gray, yes. That's blue. What have we done? Oh, that's hover color, not hover fill. See, mistakes made. I could just edit that out, but no, you saw me make a mistake. So there we go. So we're gonna say that the hover color, we're gonna say it was white, right? Color.white, I don't remember, but we're gonna go with it. And we'll say hover fill is self.color. There we go. That's what we're after. Gray to white. Okay, I think we pretty well got this here. We've got a nice looking text input, and we've got our name, and then we put our mouse over it and it turns a nice gray, and our submit goes. Now, one of the things I like, this is a little UI UX thing. It's a very subtle change between the submit hover and the submit off, but we're going from like a dark to a light, and the text, the text color changes. I think that's too much. Let's make it more subtle, like the submit button. So let's go back and let's change this cancel hover color. Is going to be the self.color. We're not going to change it. And then let's make the hover fill to be a much lighter, a much lighter gray. So hover fill is going to be color fade self.color, and let's go 70% lighter. Does that feel more? I still feel like it's too much. Let's go 90%. Whoops. 90, not 9. There we go. I feel like that is much more consistent. The differential between the full fill and a hover fill and the full white and this light gray, that feels to my eye very similar. And you can, do this as an exercise in your apps where you kind of go back and forth between things and make sure that the experience from one control to the other is very similar, and that you don't have, things that are crazy. Like, for example, something you could do, I'm not going to do it, but you could do it right now. A button control does not have a drop shadow to it. But you could come in and apply the same concept of putting a button inside of a container and giving the container a shadow. You could do that to make these buttons pop off the page the same as the input controls. I would probably do that. If this were a production app, I would put these in containers and give them a shadow so it all matched up. Let's, by the way, adjust our sizing here so that they have margin. These are things that you notice in a well-designed app where there's plenty of margin, where there's space, there's room to breathe, where you use colors or shadowing to create a sense of depth. And that's just what you don't get in the basic Power Apps design. There's no sense of depth. There's no shading. There's nothing that makes these fields pop off the page any more than anything else. It's very square. It's very boxy. This design gives us more style, more contrast. The fields pop off the page, and we have a much better experience. So that's our basic design. You can take these concepts of rounded borders on your input controls, using containers to create shadows behind any object. It can be input controls or otherwise, creating dimension that causes things to pop off the page, whether you're using color or whether you're using shadowing. These are concepts that you can apply to make your Power Apps look amazing. Modern input controls. I've used the word modern some, but I'm not talking about modern input controls as in the modern controls provided by Power Apps. They're just not ready yet. There's not enough customization that can be applied to them. And so we're really waiting for those to develop more before I start using them. I am still using the classic input controls for everything and then just styling them the way I want. Go out there to Google or on Figma, search the community for UI, UX interfaces, and look at those designs, apply those concepts to your Power App. You'll find that a lot of them look very, very similar. And so if you design your apps to look like what you're seeing as the top search results on Figma in their community designs, you're probably going to end up with something that looks really nice. Go out there, make the design happen, subscribe for more of this kind of content. I'm Ryan Johnson, and now I look forward to seeing what you create as you go out there and create something awesome.